folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, the Big 12's greatest rivalries. I'm Mike here with EJ. How's it going, pal?
It's going great. I just had the realization that after this episode, there's only 3 more episodes left in the season, which means that the regular season of college football is nearing its end.
I can't believe it has gone by, but I really, sometimes I get to this point in the season, I'm like, man, I feel like I let it slip by like sands in the hourglass. These are the days of our lives. But you know what? I don't feel that way. Like I've missed a couple of games for one reason or another, but I feel like I watched a ton of football this season. And like, while I do every year, but I feel like I've really gotten my fill. And I don't know if that's because like there's so much, like there's no true alpha team, like every team. There have been so many teams that are like fun and frisky to watch. And the performance that as we've said, again, this is a solid Pac-2 podcast. The performance that the Pac-12 is putting on in its swan song is incredible. It's just been there's been so much good football, especially when you compare to what's on Sundays, which is just dog shit terrible. Just the product on the field, the officiating is terrible. But like Saturdays, it's some good quality football this year, I feel like.
Yeah, I do feel like this is probably the most college football I've ever watched, and probably like the most diverse, right? Like,
It's because you're staying up late with me now. You're
I
going to the
that's
church of Jacquez Rogers and Gardner Minshew.
that's the thing, staying up late, even watching pre-Saturday games, right? Like rocking some JMU. I caught a few of their games because they are
They are hot, hot,
ridiculously
hot.
still not allowed to win their conference or go to a bowl game because they're new to Division 1, which is still a ridiculous rule in my eyes. But
It is. But I mean, they're doing the worst thing about JMU is that like I've only won money on them one time. I was in Pennsylvania and I was able to bet on them, but you can't bet on them here in Virginia. So I was only able to win money on them once. That's the saddest thing about this whole thing for me. I
yeah,
almost went
yeah.
to JMU. Yeah, well, not almost, but I did visit them.
Yeah.
There, I actually they're number 4 on my list. It was Wake, William and Mary, and W and J. I was stuck in the W's, and then well, obviously I'm not Demon Deacon, so
You are not.
yeah, not Mike Tomlin's protege either. That's a that's an interesting school. They have this like kissing bridge where like if you have your first kiss with someone on the bridge, you'll find the love of your life there. And apparently they do some streaking through the quad. And in retrospect, I'm like, why did I go to school in Williamsburg, Virginia? It doesn't make any sense. But Wake Forest also like kind of that was a culture shock too, being there on a Sunday and like everything's closed because it's the Bible Belt. And then at halftime of the football game, the whole stadium's empty because everyone's going to smoke a cigarette. Wild times, man. Wild times.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I'm on one tonight, brother.
You're right there.
I woke up this morning with every intention of having a normal day, cooking pork chops and stuff like that. But boy, like it has just been such a week at work. And Kara had a day too, and the pork chops weren't fully defrosted, and we just looked at each other like, well, just order some Chinese food. So between Chinese and a whole bottle of wine, I am that's all that's left of it. I'm feeling pretty great right now. So
And this episode it's bittersweet because
it is.
This is definitely one of our favorites.
It's
And
right that I get a little tuned up for this one, I think.
and this is potentially the last time we see it for a while, which is this is one of the ones that hurt, right? Realignment, I think for the most part, I'm fine with. I'm fine with the increased like likelihood of better games and better matchups and
Sure.
more meaningful games.
Sure.
But we've talked about it. A lot of traditions are ending. A lot of rivalries aren't traveling. Not all of them are traveling with each other. And this is unfortunately one of them. Probably one of the biggest ones that will not cease. And it sounds like both or the one school is pretty bitter about it. So I can see this not
Yeah,
renewing for a
they'll
while.
have a cupcake whose ass they get to whoop every year. I get it. I get it.
That's not the school. That's yeah,
Oh,
sure.
I think we're
Yeah.
talking about the same school. This is an anti Oklahoma pod. This is an anti Brett Venables pod.
That is true. It's such a double whammy with them. And you know what? You just hate to see them lose in
Oh,
Lawrence. You just
hate to
hate
see
to
it.
see it.
Hate to see them walk into Kansas, sleepwalk into Kansas. Everyone knew. Everyone knew, except for Brett Venables in Oklahoma. That's a shame.
Yeah, I mean they've been kind of whistling near the graveyard, especially with that UCF game. So it
I
just kind
love
of
that
felt like
phrase.
I know. So it just felt like it was kind of coming, and I don't know. We'll see if they can bounce back because this is
Let's hope
definitely
not.
this is
Let's hope
this is
not.
definitely um not going to be an easy task for them. But I mean, guys, we're talking about if you clicked into this episode, I assume you read what the episode was. We're talking about Bedlam, and if you didn't know what Bedlam is, it is the game between in-state rivals of Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. So we kind of talked about this offline. We hung out last weekend, and we've been doing a great job with trivia. I
Love
feel like I
trivia.
feel like trivia has been
Hey,
great.
hey, hey, hey. You've done a great job with trivia.
Thank you. And you've done a great job getting a lot of these answers correct that I really didn't think you had any chance at.
I mean, a lot of it is just. I guess I've used all my luck on the trivia because, oh boy, wow. Well, I'm just looking at stuff with work. It's just like everything's falling apart. I mean, it's fine. It's good. Like things are good. It's just like good in a bad way. But that's just. Anyways, I digress. I don't need to go. This isn't therapy session. I can cry into my bottle of wine later. But
Well,
anyways,
sip of wine. No.
yeah. Well,
You've
now
already you're already well into that crying session. So there's something that I was aware of because of another podcast that I listened to that has briefly talked about um this, and I kind of brought it up to you and you weren't aware, and I just feel like that is an absolute crime that this isn't talked about more, and especially now that I've done a little bit of research into it, I just feel like we have to talk about it. And
we do.
this is something where Oklahoma, they have some great traditions as well. Like everyone knows the Boomer Schooner, and the chants that they do, the Boomer Sooner chant, and everything like that. But I feel like Oklahoma State's traditions are not as well
Brother, are you kidding
publicized,
me?
talked
They
about.
take that paddle board, they slap it against the mat. It's fantastic.
So we thought that we would go through a couple of these traditions, and I will end with the one that we talked about. But there's a couple other that I think are worth mentioning, and I mean, no better time but to talk about Pistol Pete because this is the 100th year that Pistol Pete
Get
has
out of
been
here.
officially their mascot. Yes,
Get
they
out of here.
actually before the homecoming game last weekend, or actually, yeah, I think it was last weekend. No, I know homecoming was last weekend. I think this is when it happened. It was either that or earlier this week, that the governor kind of proclaimed, had like a nice little ceremony and proclamation about Pistol Pete. So I thought I'd just kind of talk about what Pistol Pete was.
I
So,
love
or
it.
the tradition, the history of it. So it was according to Oklahoma State's website. So I would assume this is very correct. The tradition was born in the early 1920s, when Oklahoma State, then Oklahoma A&M College, began searching for a new mascot. The true roots of Pistol Pete go back more than a century, like I had mentioned, and he's actually more than just a character. He's a legend. So the
Ooh.
character of OSU's mascot Pistol Pete originated from an actual person named Frank B. Eaton. So Eaton's
Yeah, he does. Fat piece of shit.
he'll be eaten.
Frank. He'd
Uh,
be eaten.
Eaton's life began in 1860 in Hartford, Connecticut, and Eaton and his family moved to Kansas shortly after the Civil War. And
Wow.
Eaton's
What
life
a
would,
trek.
I know. So it would actually take a dramatic turn at the age of 8 when he witnessed the murder of his father by 6 vigilantes.
Damn.
Yeah.
What does that do?
Well, that makes you determined to even the score is what it does. So he practiced his marksmanship until the age of 15, when he set out to search for his father's killers. And it took Eaton more than 5 years to track them down and kill the men who had taken his father's life away.
He's Inigo
Forever,
Montoya. He's
yes,
Inigo Montoya looking for the six-fingered man. This is
yes, and
awesome.
and it took a while, but he found him.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. What a movie! Like they don't, you know how they say they don't make them like they used to, and like I'm like, wow, yeah, yes, they're made classics, but there's still good cinema out there. And good cinema isn't just limited to Marty Scorsese's definition of it, though. Marty Scorsese does make good movies. I'm excited to see Killers of the Flower Moon, but I'm also, I'm a nerd. I love Avengers, but yeah, that is a movie that like I just don't see them making anything like The Princess Bride ever again. Oh,
Yeah,
so good.
it's a
Anyways,
classic.
anyways,
So according to this, the title of cowboy came naturally to Eaton as indicated in the roles in which he had served throughout his life. So Eaton was given the nickname of Pistol Pete after beating out many cavalry competitors in a marksmanship contest at Fort Gibson. He also served as a U.S. Deputy Marshal under the hanging judge, Isaac Parker, and later in Eaton's life owned a blacksmith shop which served the surrounding communities. So in the 1920s, Eaton was involved in the Armistice Day Parade and OSU's homecoming parade. This well-known and admired cowboy died in 1958, the same year Charlie Lester appeared as OSU's first Pistol Pete mascot.
hmm.
So where Frank B. Eaton served as a strong symbol of the Old West, then Pistol Pete serves as a symbol of the cowboy spirit now and forever.
Nice. I love that. That's
I know.
great.
I know. No idea.
That's awesome.
Now you're
That
gonna think
makes
of
me like
Pistol Pete
Oklahoma
different.
State. Yeah, yeah, that makes me like Oklahoma State even more. This guy's basically Inigo Montoya with
Yeah.
guns. That's awesome.
With guns. All right, so why don't we get on to the Spirit Rider here? So the Spirit Rider statue is a symbol of pride that it's a tribute to the Spirit Rider who rallies fans on football game days and to the spirit of the Old West on which Oklahoma State was founded. Sculpted by world-renowned American West artist Jim Hamilton, the piece was commissioned by the OSU Foundation and installed on campus in 1994. The Spirit Rider became the unofficial emblem of Oklahoma State following the January 2001 plane crash that claimed the lives of 10 Cowboys affiliated with the men's basketball program.
Oh man.
Yeah. So flowers, cards, thoughts, and prayers surrounded this strong symbol of campus, bringing the OSU family even closer together. And the strength and spirit of the university were celebrated nationwide in March 2004 when the Spirit Rider served as the backdrop for the launching of ESPNU. And since 1984, the Spirit Rider has come to life at every home football game. Riding astride the horse, Bullet. The Spirit Rider races to the 30-yard line at Boone Pickens Stadium to celebrate every touchdown.
So
The
wait,
Spirit
so
Rider.
hold on.
Oh,
So
sorry.
the Spirit Rider's the background of ESPNU?
It was, I believe, when it launched, like in that initial launching of it.
Oh, so they just chose a background and it was the Spirit. That's pretty dope. I've never
Yeah.
actually seen this statue before. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's on campus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've seen obviously the Spirit Rider person during the football games, but
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
was kind
yeah,
of cool
yeah.
to see that there was an actual statue on campus too.
Now, didn't we talk a couple episodes back about what it means to have all four hooves on the ground versus one versus uh two? It was what all four is the person survived the battle, three
Yes.
up is the person was injured but
Yes.
survived, and then two up is person died in battle. What's interesting here is the Spirit Rider, his front left hoof is up. I mean, he is in full gallop, but the front left hoof is up and then the back right hoof is up. So technically, I guess that means died in battle, but
I
I
don't
don't
know
know if that's
because
what they're going for here.
I would probably guess not because it isn't of an actual like
Right, right. Not an actual
general or
person. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Pretty dope though. This is a cool statue.
So this brings us to the last tradition, and this was the one that I had talked to you about, and I thought it was definitely worth mentioning. So this is we're going to talk about Oklahoma State's homecoming. So the homecoming is actually uh, reviewed and revered as one of the best homecomings in across the nation, but no one seems to talk about it enough. And a little fun fact, they don't lose on that, and they didn't lose last weekend during their homecoming.
They
So just
sure
a little
didn't.
fun fact for the future: when you're betting Oklahoma State, no matter how bad they
Cash
are,
money.
they do not lose. So, Oklahoma State's very first homecoming was held as part of the Harvest Carnival in the fall of 1913, but it wasn't until 7 years later that the OSU Alumni Association hosted its first official homecoming celebration. So, on October 30th, 1920, 90 Oklahoma A&M, which is what it was called back then, alumni returned to Stillwater for festivities, including the Aggie football game, plus a dance and dinner hosted by the Alumni Association president, Monroe Odie. So, of the 90 in attendance, alumni in attendance, 50 were from Stillwater area and 40 were from out of state. It was also in the 1920s, the now famous tradition of house decorations began when sororities started to decorate their doorways. And in 1930, the first ever homecoming parade, a mile long, made its way down Main Street. More than 17,000 alumni returned to Oklahoma A&M that year to renew old friendships, to show their pride in the orange and black. And then in 1942 and 1944, homecoming was combined with Dad's and Mother's Day and sponsored by the YMCA, the YWCA, Dads and Mothers Associations, and the Alumni Association. And the combination was a result of World War II and impending gas rationing that occurred. So they all kind of combined them together. And even with the gas rationing and cutbacks on parade floats, decorations, visiting bands, the football game, and reunion functions, just all around, just because of the era and the time that was what was going on, there it was still very well attended. Following the war in 1946, there was a record attendance of 20,000 alumni. Then the largest parade was held,
That's
including
crazy.
more than 50 floats, 6 bands, and other community entries as well.
Love that.
Now, over time, the size of the house decorations overlook those parades has grown.
Yep.
In 1966, vehicles were abandoned and onlookers tried a new experiment, and they called it simply the walk around, and that was to view the decorations as well. So 3 years later, home decorations began being judged and scored. Now, and this is where it got really exciting for me, the new events, like there's a sign competition, there's a football frenzy, and a chili cook-off, which was added to this homecoming as well. And since that time, the event has grown and today is recognized as America's greatest homecoming celebration, drawing more than 80,000 alumni back to campus each year.
Brother, you got me sold. That sounds awesome. Like
Yes.
I love pomp and circumstance of homecoming. Like it is fantastic. I wish I'd gone to more W&J homecomings as an alum. Um, Now that my fraternity's been kicked off campus, it's like I have less of a reason to go back, but like, and also just effing libs. But it's like that's just awesome, dude. Like I love that. I think it's fantastic. Like it should be a big deal, and it is a big deal. And it's just like, you know, it's you can't go back, but buddy, for homecoming, you can give it a shot, and that's so much fun, man. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, and in just to kind of add a little bit more to it, the Council for Advancement and Support of Education, or CASE International, has recognized OSU's homecoming as a Seal of Excellence recipient. This is the highest award given by CASE in the field of alumni relations. This prestigious award is given only to programs that serves as models for others, and OSU was recognized for the widespread participation and the outstanding organization of its homecoming program.
Dude, if
So
you're good.
I was just gonna say, so now you can, it's expanded beyond just attending. There, if you go to the website, there's a lot of photos, videos, live streams of the walk around, the Sea of Orange parade is what they call that, and the cook off and everything like that. So even if you aren't physically able to attend in Stillwater, they have now done a pretty good job of boosting up their digital game and making that accessible to everyone that isn't able to show up.
If you are not, if you're not aligned to either of these two schools, if you choose Oklahoma, you just turn the pot off right now, and you go away, and we don't want you around here. We don't want you around these parts anymore because boy, OK State does it right. That's awesome.
Yes. In 2010, the OSU Alumni Association began fundraising for the $3 million Homecoming and Student Programs Endowment as part of the $1 billion branding success campaign. And like we just mentioned, this is one of the only schools left in the nation that does an event like the walk around, that also does the parade, the chili cook off. So it seems really cool.
That's what it feels. It's like a harken back to the old days. You know,
Right.
it's like the walk around, Sigs inside, like let the boys play, let the boys live. You know, this is great. I love it.
Yeah, this is definitely something like even not being an alum, I think this would be absolutely awesome to
Oh
attend,
yeah,
similar to like the Cyhawk week of festivities that happen for the Cyhawk Trophy in Iowa. Uh, this just seems like something that would be well worth the trip to
yeah.
experience, even as an outsider.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially with my just vitriol for Oklahoma in general, like that would
Right,
just
that it makes it easier
oh
for us to blend in,
oh yeah.
and we do actually know someone, Kelly's cousin is actually an Okie State, alum. She went
Really?
Yes, and she went to the Red River Rivalry this year, with her wife. Her wife is an Oklahoma grad. Don't know how that happened. But so they went to that, and she is actually, Kelly's cousin's taking Kelly's uncle to Bedlam this year as well as
That's
their brother.
awesome.
Yes, so she got to hit two of our favorite rivalries this year.
Yeah,
And
that's
I got to talk
fantastic.
to her at the family reunion before the season
Dude,
started.
Big
So
12, man. Like they what respect I have for this conference. I mean, like it I guess you're losing some of these tradition while you're losing both of the traditions. At least I mean, Red River's going to the SEC, and then Bedlam is essentially done for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I mean,
it's it's tough. I looked today. The Big 12 released their, just a quick sidetrack before we get back on track with the trophy, is they released their schedule for the next 4 years and their protected rivalries. And I believe there's only about 4 or 5 protected rivalries because everything's been pretty gutted.
damn.
It is nice though that one of the rivalries that is protected is not a new rivalry, but a new Big 12 rivalry, which is Utah BYU, which made sense.
Yeah. Yep.
We will definitely discuss that one probably next season. But yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, obviously the Big Ten has so many that they have to like cut protected rivals.
Hmm.
Not sure exactly what the SEC is going to do yet. They have not released that yet. So, and the ACC did release theirs and their protected rivalries, which a lot of them made a ton of sense. But again, there was like at least 10 of them. So it was kind of took me aback when I saw that the Big 12 only had, I think it was like 5. And one of them we will talk about in a couple weeks. It'll be one of
Cool.
the remaining ones. Okay. Do you know what this trophy looks like?
No, didn't even know Bedlam had a trophy, to be
Me
honest.
either. Great. So, what is your guess as to what it looks like?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's like a bust of me in a couple hours after I crash after this wine. I don't know, man. Like someone sprawled out in bed with whiskey bottles all over the place, just a bronze statue of Pistol Pete in bed, women around him after he's slain his father's killers. Bullet
Uh,
casings all over the floor.
okay, I guess we will see if
Oh,
you're
that was it.
correct.
That was it.
You nailed it. All right,
Oh,
so the history of the rivalry, the first matchup between these two schools was in 1904. Oklahoma won 75 to nothing,
damn.
and Oklahoma won the first 15 of 16 meetings.
Boo.
overall, Oklahoma leads the series 91 wins to 19 losses to
Holy
7 ties.
shit. Holy shit. I would not.
Yeah,
I didn't see that one coming.
it's not great. I mean, since that's why Gundy is, revered as one of, if not the best coach in school history, because he's
He
at least
wins.
been respectable. He wins, yes, one, and two, been respectable
He has
in
one.
the no wins as like, yes, one of your
Oh,
points,
I
and two,
was like,
no,
I'm pretty sure they've won more than one, right? Like,
yeah, and I don't I
holy cow.
yeah, and just being respectable in this rivalry and not just be a blowout. But yeah, this is definitely one of the most lopsided ones that we've seen to date.
Holy shit.
The term Bedlam actually began with the rivalry. Uh, there is it's murky. Let's start there. It's murky on where that came from, but most people will say, and I think they interviewed football players, so it sounded like recently, like some of the kids, and this story that they've been told is it actually started between the two schools' wrestling programs. So apparently, back in the day, they were had some really intense, because like any rivalry, extends in-state rivalry extends beyond just football. So the wrestling programs at one point were really, really good, and the term came
Oklahoma
to
still
life.
has a good, I don't know about OK State, but Oklahoma still has a good wrestling program.
Okay. So I guess the term came to life when the crowds that attended the matches would just be really rambunctious, and I think one person came out of the arena or the stadium at one point, or the gym, whatever what it was at the time, at one point was like, oh man, it's Bedlam in there, and that's kind of was stuck. And I think there was a couple other stories of similar breadth, but that's one that it seems like kind of stuck as far as
What
what they passed down.
what's your favorite football, or not football? What's your, well, maybe football? What's your favorite? What was your favorite sporting event to attend in high school? Like, not as a
Oh,
player.
basketball.
So, agree. I
And
I, I
we
was
had
the leader of the
we,
Wildcat Den.
as I say, we had a student section, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I was leader of Wildcat Den my senior year. Um, so like that was definitely a highlight. But I gotta say, like wrestling's not something that like, man, we attended wrestling. We had a good wrestling. We had a really good wrestling team. We had a couple state champions whenever I went through there. But like, um, volleyball, women's volleyball for another reason entirely. But men's volleyball, man, that was. I remember my buddy Chad Schmeling was sitting next to me. I went to go see Latrobe play Henfield, and he was like stunned by the athleticism and the brutality that came with men's volleyball. Like, he was like grabbing onto me, like, holy cow! Like, that was a blast. We had a good, our men's volleyball team my senior year went to states quarters or semifinals. Yeah, we had a good team too, so that helped. But yeah,
We
men's
didn't
volleyball was
have
a blast.
we didn't have men's volleyball. Like, I
On
don't
Michigan,
remember
you
it.
don't say.
I don't even think, yeah, in all of Michigan, like literally, like we barely had lacrosse, which kind of makes sense because that was pretty, northeast
Yeah,
centralized. But nah, no men's volleyball. Like we
yeah,
would
we
play like, but yet there was a surprisingly high number of bars that had outdoor beach volleyball. So that became a really cool
mm,
thing. Like we would
yeah.
do, well, one of my buddy's mom worked at this bar, and she would let us go up there, and we'd get pizza, and obviously couldn't drink, but they had some like really, really nice like league, like I'm sure they hosted adult leagues and stuff like that, but we'd go up there and we'd play. So we played volleyball, but yeah, it just there just wasn't men's
Hmm.
volleyball. It's kind of
Uh,
surprising. I didn't realize that
yeah,
that was a thing.
I mean, you look at collegiate volleyball, like Nebraska obviously is a really good girls volleyball program. Penn State has elite. I know women's, I think men's volleyball too. So I don't know. I don't know. Gets skipped over Michigan. Just popped right over that.
Yeah. So the first Bedlam game, like I said, date back to 1904. Oklahoma wasn't even a state at the time. Guthrie was the
Wow.
territory's capital city, and the venue for that was where that game was played was in Guthrie, that first one. So Oklahoma and Oklahoma State duked it out. Like I'd mentioned, it was a 75 to nothing game. And allegedly that there's a report that's, more than a century old, that a punt even rolled down the field of the field during the game that was being played on, and it landed in a creek, and the two teams fought in freezing cold water for possession, because back then apparently the recovery would have counted for a touchdown. So they
What?
yeah, so OU secured it, but that seems like a crazy thing that would have rolled into a creek,
Bring
and it's
that
just
back.
yeah, I
Bring
know,
that back.
frozen, doesn't matter. So
That's
even though
awesome.
the first game, that was the first game played in the series, the tradition of the Bedlam Bell Clapper. I don't know why I had an awkward pause there. Bedlam Bell
I
Clapper
thought
was
the
born.
clapper was the name of the bell, but okay, the Bedlam Bell Clapper,
Yes, a clapper is a part of the
the
bell.
thing
Yes,
that,
that is a
yeah, okay.
clapper. Was born in 1917 when OSU and Oklahoma met in Oklahoma City, and the Aggies caused an upset over the Sooners 9-0. That night, the bell in the tower of Old Central, which was the building back then, they're Old Main, Old Central, every
Yeah.
school has one, rang across Stillwater, announcing the victory over the Sooners. By the time the fans who had attended the game arrived back in town, the townspeople and the students still in town had started a torchlight party, or a parade, excuse me. So all night, Old Central bell rang, the students relay pulling the rope, and OU students naturally stole the clapper from the bell during the Bedlam game of 1932. However, Cowboy spirit prevailed, and the bell still rang, using a sledgehammer to announce OSU's victory over the Sooners. So,
I love that. Little Triple H style sledgehammer. That's good stuff.
listen, you're not going to stop them when they beat the Sooners. They're clapping that bell
Clapping
by all
that bell,
means,
baby.
by all means necessary.
Clapping that bell.
So OSU students later stole the clapper back, but OU claimed it to be the wrong one. They said it was a clapper from the church in Norman. And in 1966, a compromise was made, and the bell clapper that once hung in the bell of Old Central became the symbolic trophy in the Bedlam game. So if you scroll down, you can see one, Old Central's bell, and then two, the old clapper. Don't go further than that, but
Okay. All right. There it is. Nice little ribbon around it.
yeah.
And that can confirm looks like the clapper.
So
All right.
this continued for what's it look like 33 years, and in 1999 the clapper was replaced with a crystal bell to symbolize
Ooh.
the old central bell, and the clapper today can be seen in the old central building, which is pretty cool. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see the
Ooh.
crystallized bell if you want to talk to
Ooh.
people about what you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean it's dainty. It's a black marble base which has adorned on it top left OU, top right OK State, bottom left Bank of Oklahoma, I would assume, bottom right Ford. Love that. And then it says University of Oklahoma, Oklahoma State University. So I guess they must replace that plaque on the front with the winning team. Yeah, because it's a University of Oklahoma 2000, Oklahoma State 2001. So it looks like they probably replace it every couple years because there's only room for 4 on there. And then
Yeah.
on top of the marble base, black marble base, is a crystal bell. There's something written. Oh, Bedlam. Bedlam is written on the bell. Etched in the glass. Yeah, quite fancy. Quite fancy. Dainty, even.
Well, we've had the Bedlam clapper. It's been a
Yeah.
while since we've had one like this, a trophy like this.
Yeah,
We
indeed.
transitioned into the crystal bell, the
Yeah.
full bell that's supposed to symbolize Old Central. Well, that lasted from 1999 until 2013. Well,
Mm-hmm.
really, the 2013 was the last time that happened, and in 2014, it was replaced with another trophy. If you want to scroll down a little bit, Only scroll to
Oh my, no, no, that's not what they did. No, he's not even excited to hold it, and he shouldn't be. What a piece of shit. Oh my god. I don't even know how to explain this. All right. Let me give it a shot. So it looks heavy. 80 pounds of granite. Holy cow, I believe it. It looks heavy. Sometimes, listen, I know heavy is one of our things, not this time. So it's like an orange marble base, and then like two like pillars, one with OU and one with Oregon or Oklahoma State on it, and a versus in the middle. And it's all like colored like the OU pillars, but it's like a paint on color.
yeah, it reminds me of like the trophies you get as a kid. Like the middle of the
Yeah.
trophies, it's like a fake metal that's actually plastic looking
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
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 With almost like,
Yeah.
and you know what those the OU and the OSU remind me of is like if you were to get a cover on the back of your phone nowadays, it would look like that,
Yes.
right? It'd have like
Yes.
the stripe
Yes.
with, yeah, that's what it looks
Yes.
like.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah,
And
like
then at
the
the top
yeah.
is just a little sign that says the Bedlam series. Actually, it says Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oklahoma presents the Bedlam series. This thing stinks. Is this it?
Well, no,
Oh, thank
thankfully.
God.
This trophy was not popular and was
Yeah.
replaced 5 years later in 2019. So Phillips 66 became the corporate sponsor and had a design competition where the fans got to vote between 8
Ooh.
designs. So why don't you scroll down and talk through the matchups that happened, and then don't go past once you get to the 8, and I want you to tell me after you do all this which one you think won. But why don't
All
you
right.
talk through it?
So 1A versus 1B. 1A is the old school, aka the original Bedlam Bell, versus Oklahoma Granite. So Bedlam Bell knocks that out.
That's the crystal one that we talked about earlier. The granite is the ugly one that Mike hates.
Piece of shit. All right. Then match two is Rise to the Top, which is a like black base with four beams rising up to a similar stupid looking sign. I don't like that one either. But it's better than Take the State, which is an outline of Oklahoma in metal crooked. Um, Reminds me of the Battle Line trophy. Probably the same person who did the Battle Line came up with that one, but I don't know. It looks so shoddy. It's a piece of crap. So I would say between those four, I would still go back to the Crystal Bell.
Okay.
And then none of these are great. Then 3A is it's a more modern look as by the description of the newer incarnation is a piece of crap. Then we have 3B, which looks like the World Series trophy, um, but
Exactly
like
what it looks
more
like.
dangerous because it's got knives. And then New Age was 4A, which is I don't know how to describe it. It looks like I don't know. And then 4B, which is Steal the Show, which is somewhat similar to the Lombardi, but
Yeah.
instead of a football on top, it's the Bedlam series on top. Honestly, out of all these, I would go back to 1A, go back to the Crystal Bell, because the rest of these stink out loud. Like it's just because on the rest of these, like it's all that plaque that says the Bedlam series with the Route 66 like logo. Like it's crazy that all of these have a little plaque that says the Bedlam series with the Route 66 logo on it. And they
Phillips
all
66. That's
what a
why.
Phillips 66.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sponsor, right?
Mhm.
They all stink, right? Because they're trying to very clearly call out Phillips 66 in the Bedlam series. And that little plaque that they have designed for the Bedlam series just stinks. So, I mean, if I had to guess who wins, like sometimes you got to go back to go forward. Let's go with the bell. Let's bring back the old crystal
So
bell.
that's the one you want, and that's the one you think they went back to.
If the people of Oklahoma have any integrity, that's the one I'm thinking they went back to.
All right, why don't you scroll down and tell us what the winner was?
Or they went a totally different direction. Oh no. 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 No.
I will say that's probably the best one of all of the crap ones.
No.
Yeah.
The
So why don't you-
winner that they chose, ladies and gentlemen, it's just an outline of the state of Oklahoma on a black base. And it's like tilted. It's not even like the state of Oklahoma as it sits on the state. It's tilted up like a gun. It I'm beside myself. I think that Phillips 66 cooked the books. That's sucks.
Yeah, not great. I agree with you. I think of the 8, the Crystal Bell was the best one to go back to, but good thing we have a segment in a little bit that we can talk about what we would do differently, because it sounds like we're going to do lots of things different.
What did Trump say? Stop the vote. Like, I mean, yeah, they stole this. Phillips 66 stole the vote. That stinks.
So
Stinks.
one last thing before we get into our ratings was a pretty funny story that I came across that I think you're going to really like. And I'm glad, because I actually found it today, and I'm glad I stumbled across it. So in 2007, author Steve Budden, whose father was a New York bookie, publicized a claim that the 1954 Bedlam game was fixed by mobsters in his book, Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll.
Really?
Allegedly, the mobsters threatened and paid off a cook to slip laxatives into the soup consumed by many Oklahoma Sooner starting players, causing them to fall violently ill in the days leading up to the game. Oklahoma was victorious in the end, but the 14-0 win did not cover the 20-point spread in Oklahoma's favor. However, many people involved in the 1954 contest do not recall any incidents like the one purported by Budden to have occurred, nor do any pregame or postgame newspaper articles mentioned any such condition. One possible reason people say that the Sooners had a lackluster performance, according to one coach, was that they were, quotes, beat up from the previous game against Nebraska. I want to believe that there was a fix, especially back in the 50s.
I choose to believe. I choose to believe.
When this dude has a dad that was a New York mobster, like, of all games, right? Of all
And who's
things.
going to come out and say something if it was rigged by the mafia? Like, who's going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, we had a bunch of Italians show up
Right.
with some gabagool, and the gabagool was funky." Like, like, oh yeah, I
Yeah,
choose to believe.
I know. Me too. I thought that was a fun little story. Okay, on to the rankings. Uh, let us have it.
0.5 for looks. That thing sucks. I hate it. I hate it. I would give it a 0 if I could, but like at least it's a trophy. Like that's my bar. 0 is no trophy. 0.5 is as high as it goes. Oh, that stinks. I even feel sick giving it a 0.5. You know what? Fucking 0. Screw it. 0. That sucks.
That is the lowest ranking you've ever given on the pod.
It sure is. I've never given it a 0 before, because I would give it a -1 if I could. Because you know what, man? It's like it's a slap in the face. Like, you had a good thing going. The clapper wasn't bad. Like, I mean, like I could have dealt with the clapper, because like, sure, it's not like, you know, big and beefy and all that good stuff, but at least it's historically significant. Um History of the trophy. there was some good theft and stuff like that that came from ringing the bell. Like, I love the history. Like, I guess, EJ, this is the question. Like, you know, are we judging this based on the history of the current trophy? In which case, I can tell you my score is going to be a 0.
No,
Or,
this
yeah,
is like the totality of the idea of a trophy.
then I gotta go with a 3. Gotta go with a 2 point. I'll go with a 3 because I like everything about the clapper. I like, they're ringing the bell and all that stuff. Like, I like all of that. There was some theft involved in there. I like it. I even like the crystal version. Like, that was cool, like, and that was the thing during that. Like, we had the crystal BCS trophy during that time. That was the thing. It was popular. I like it. But this new thing just like knocks it down a whole, like, because I mean, really, like, the clapper itself and then the crystal, like, that's pretty good. If I would give that probably a 4. So I'm gonna knock it down 2 points. I'm gonna say a 2. And knock it down 2 whole points because of the just terrible stealing of the vote by Phillips 66. Okay. Rivalry itself, I mean, 5. Like, I love Bedlam. The nation loves Bedlam. Didn't realize that it was that lopsided. And that brings it to competitiveness because, like, boy, like, now it's like it is very competitive. Like, I feel like Bedlam's always gonna be a shootout. You always take the over. But boy, historically, it just hasn't been. So I guess a 3.5. And then overall, gosh, I guess I'm gonna keep it in the mid tier just because of Bedlam and a good history. But if we're only looking in the past like 10, well, it's crazy because like in the past 10 years, the rivalry's been very competitive, but then like the trophy has stunk in the past 10 years. Now I know I've never seen the trophy on TV because it's terrible. But then before this, it's like the trophy was good, but the rivalry wasn't competitive. So I'm gonna put it in the mid tier. I'm very conflicted. This whole thing just, yeah, very conflicted. Okay, go ahead.
Looks, I'm gonna give it.
Be brave. Be brave.
I know this is. I think for me, I'm gonna give it a 1, and I think for me, while we've had corporate ones that have just kind of been meh, I think it was the fact that they went away from something that was so good. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like it was excellent, but it just had history. The history part of it would have been fine. Like, I think that, like, I get not wanting a bell because there's plenty of bells, but the clapper was something where it's like, shoot, I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit. Like, I would have just redone that. Like, I get wanting to preserve the original one. That's fine. But I would have just like made it like 10 times bigger and just had this big ass clapper, and that would have been great
Comically
because it would have
large
been so
clapper.
unique. So yeah,
You
I'll
nuke.
go unique. I'll go with a 1. The history, I'm gonna go with a 3 just because of the good history of it. Like, I know the bad history of it. I do appreciate when things do change. I don't mind change. We've had a few that have changed positively and
Yeah.
had a decent end result. But I do love, obviously, the whole clapper thing. It's interesting when a rivalry trophy I mean, this has nothing to do with Oklahoma's. Like, sometimes you have a bit of each school or something like that. But I think because it had just a rich history of them ringing this bell and then Oklahoma, fans knowing they do this, so needing to stop that, but it didn't
Yeah.
really stop that. So I just kind of love that history. But it would be much higher had they not tried to modernize it and
Yeah.
had 2 atrocious trophies back to back. The rivalry itself, 5. I mean, in-state rivalry already gets you, between a state school and the other one is already going to be a high And this one, like you said, is just so well known. It's a goddamn shame that it is not going to happen in the foreseeable future. The competitiveness, there's no way around it. And I just looked. How many times do you think Gundy has won since he's been coach? So 2005. So he has been coach for almost 20 years, 18,
18 years.
17 games.
He's won 6.
3. So yeah, there's no way around it. This is the one. It's super lopsided. I'm sure if I looked at some of the scores, I'm sure there were probably some heartbreaking games.
But it
Looks
feels
like
like they could win every year. It feels like
yes,
they have a chance.
sure. And it's looking at these, there definitely have been some very close ones. But even since 2015, they've only won once. So it's not been great. So I gotta go 1 there. And then overall, this is tough. I think we might need to revisit how we're gonna rank these in the future, because it's like it's tough to separate. Like, there's times where we want to separate an awesome trophy but has everything else, and this has like a good rivalry, a pretty good history, but it just stinks, like
Yeah.
what it's turned into. So I'll keep it in a middle, but I mean media middle tier, but it's low middle, which stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. We've not had a low tier one all season. Hmm.
This one's flirting with it. If it wasn't for it being just like such a well-known game that we love, it would probably be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh okay. What would you change? What does Bedlam trophy look like to you?
I mean, go back to the crystal. That's pretty good.
Okay.
That's pretty good to me. Um, you know what I'd like to see? I think I mentioned this for the Red River rivalry, but let's do a like a Winchester repeater that's like all decked out in gold plated and stuff like that. That'd be cool. That would I think that works for, the cowpokes and the Sooners too. Like that was, weapon choice for those folks. So I think a Winchester repeater would be pretty damn dope as a trophy. I'd love some school to have it. And yeah, I think that'd be great. And you can have it on a nice little plaque, hang it up and stuff like that. That'd be awesome.
So, yes. So I think I would be okay with bringing back, if we're going to stick with the history of how this originated, I would just bring a clapper, but just an enormously oversized clapper. Like, just give me a huge one, have it somewhat painted one way, another painted the other. And
Ooh,
I mean, I don't even need scores. Like, maybe if you want to do the ribbon part of it that has scores, don't care. Like, just
ooh,
get
I
me
like
an
that.
oversized clapper. Now, if we're talking about completely new idea, and the only reason this is coming up to mind because I was reading before here, I'm a reader, is similar to what you're saying. So, but I think more specific. So I think you have a trophy that has Pistol Pete's pistols on one side, and the Sooners have a all male spirit
Squad.
squad called the Roughnecks, and they also have a gun that does not look like pistols that they shoot off
Yeah.
at the beginning of the games, and when they score touchdowns and everything like that. So I think like having those two together on some sort of like plaque, and maybe you can remove them. Obviously, they wouldn't be real guns that can be fireable, but like, I don't know, something that has both schools guns. And I don't even care about the PC. I mean, the fact that they both still have like a Pistol Pete and then the Roughnecks doing it, clearly they don't care. So
Guns are
why not
cool.
lead into it?
Yeah.
But yeah, just have some sort of like semblance of like a orange and black Pistol Pete pistols, and then something to do with the Roughnecks guns. That is in the, I don't even know what the colors are technically. Do you know what the red is called? I feel like it's probably just not red, right?
I think they have a. I think their
I was going to say
white is
crimson, but is that
cream. I think it's crimson and cream.
is it? It is crimson and cream. Look at you.
I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing. Um, okay, so getting to the actual details about the game. So we had talked about it last week. The Saddle Trophy is actually being played this week as well. So I thought we could kind of let people know that that game, that's the Saddle Trophy, that's TCU at Texas Tech. That is going to be played time of taping tonight, Thursday night, 7 p.m. on FS1. Texas Tech is favored by 3. Mike, who you got in that one?
Depends if their quarterback plays. I haven't
Mm.
bet that one yet because I'd like to see who's going to play. If their QB plays, I'll take the Red Raiders. If their QB doesn't play, it's a good question. I might stay away from
Just
it.
stay away.
So, yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think this side is the Red Raiders. Lubbock at night. Neither team is super great. Both coming off a bye. So even if one quarterback doesn't play, they've had an extra week to incorporate the other one. So that's probably just going to lean me to the Red Raiders just because it's at night and probably one of the last games at the fans. Actually, there's one more that we're going to talk about the very last week is probably their last big game, but yeah, I'll probably take the Red Raiders. And then Bedlam, and it will be played this weekend, a Saturday on ABC at 3:30. It is in Stillwater for the last time in the foreseeable future, and the Sooners are only favored by 5.5. I'm going to be honest, this feels like uh, a Cowboys play here. Now, whether they actually outright win it, they've been playing much better. I don't know what the hell. All of a sudden, they've won
Ollie
like
Gordon, dude.
yeah, 2 or 3
That
in a
like,
row.
yeah. I mean, for anyone who hasn't been paying a ton of attention to OK State, and why the hell would you? Um, watch this game just to watch Ollie Gordon, especially if you're an NFL team that needs a running back, because he is something special. So I would highly recommend checking out the game just to watch Ollie play. He had a big breakout performance last week. I forget what he ran for, but like, yeah, Ollie Gordon's a stud from Oklahoma State. So definitely check out the game. Um, yeah, I might take the Pokes.
Yeah, it just seems like teams trending opposite directions, right? So now you have Oklahoma who had their big win against Texas and then off their bye lose or almost lose to UCF. I mean, they came down to a failed 2-point conversion, but UCF kind of blew that game and then it finally, lost at Kansas last week. And now they have to go to their rival for the last Bedlam in Stillwater and a fan base that's going to be just rabid. And honestly, don't look now. Oklahoma State is 6-2. They're ranked and they're still in the Big 12 run. They've won. I did not realize that until I'm looking at this now, and won the last 4, including beating Kansas State and Kansas, both of which are, and West Virginia, all of which are kind of all right. I'm sold. This actually might be one of my plays. Screw it. I think yeah, I think I'm liking the Cowboys, and that number is interesting because it should be higher, right? You'd think like, oh my gosh, the Sooners will kill them, right?
Hmm.
You sure
I
about
mean,
that?
they almost lost to UCF. They did lose to Kansas. Like that's the only thing is, are they gonna be like fired up and refocused because they lost to Kansas? But like,
Tough ask. It's a rivalry game,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Even if Oklahoma State was 2-6, it's you never know with the rivalry game. But now that it's not only are there just going to be animosity about Oklahoma leaving, but they actually have a chance. Like they win this and they have a tiebreaker over Oklahoma to get into the Big 12 championship. So we could have been completely off with who's gonna go to that
yeah,
game. Both of us.
yeah.
Um, okay. So that'll do it for us this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out our Saturday morning pick'em posts. Only got what I say 4 weeks left. So it's gonna come down to making some moves here. Who's gonna rise up to the top? We have a current listener, Dave, who's up at the top.
I need
Can
Dave to
anybody catch
screw
him?
up a little bit. Need him to screw up a little bit at this point.
Yeah, he's kind of pulling away a little bit. And also check out our new
I mean, I'm
website.
getting closer. It's just he keeps winning.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to close the gap when Dave, if you're listening right now, pick some losers this week, pal.
No, it's tough. I'd say overall, for the most part, we've all done pretty damn well. Like I would be interested to see, like I said, if we looked at what the actual like wins losses totals are. I bet you we're all about, I would say most of us, probably 6 out of the 8 are above 500 for the year, which is pretty damn good when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's just been a really great competition this year.
Yeah.
So it's been exciting. And also check out our new website, whiskerswhiskies.com, where our college football preview bracket is located, and also our ultimate sports travel log. So join us next week when we talk about the telephone trophy. For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.